Greetings, everyone. It's dwburman again with the video. It's been a long time since I did a lightweight video, and I'm not really doing a new lightweight video now per se. Well, it's a new video. Late last year, I made this little clip just for fun. Um, pew, 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 boom, and fly away. Uh, I had a comment down here that just came in yesterday, and I just happened to see it. A lot of times I miss comments, but this is awesome. Tutorial? Question mark? No, not really a tutorial, but I will. I did find the scene, which the video clip is named a bit of retro fun. The actual scene name is Poly Explosion Test 01. So let's take a look at this scene. I've not really looked at it very much. So I just kind of wanted to take a look at it and see how it's constructed, and we'll walk through this together. So here's the Lightwave scene. You can see here's the highly detailed spaceship object. We'll take a look at it in Modeler in a little bit, but you can see the tail there is just all polygons. There's nothing really fancy and special about it. So let's see if I can... Hey, there's the cube. This cube was made using the Quad Panels plugin that's available at Liberty 3D. It's good for doing really detailed cubes and stuff. It just subdivides up a plane or whatever geometry and just puts a bunch of detail on it. And there's lots of controls and stuff. I'm not going to go into that at this point. These poly explosion test layers, obviously that's part of that, but let's go to the ship test, the test ship. Okay, here's the fancy schmancy test ship. Ooh, I even did some painting on it, I guess. I guess I ran this through 3D Coat, which I still haven't quite come to grips with, but I use it occasionally. Ooh, and motion blur's on and everything, so... Okay, you can see the tail here. There is some noise in the what's it called? The exhaust flames. You can kind of see that there's a texture moving in there. So let's take a look at that. And again, we'll switch to just a regular shaded view, and you can see there's just some basic geometry there. There's nothing really special about it. So let's bring up the engine fire thing here. So this is a nodes texture. I call this a bit of retro fun because I tried using some of the old school retro techniques that I learned from magazines like Lightwave Power User or something like that. So this is stuff they were developing on Babylon 5. It's that old. So obviously they did not have nodes there, but the basic idea was to use a texture, just a simple turbulence texture set to world coordinates. And this is not animated. You see none of these channels are animated. These aren't even animated. So basically, the texture stays in place while the polygon moves through it. So that's how you're getting the movement on there. It's like if the spaceship was not moving, the texture would stay in one place. So let's turn off the motion blur. So again, photoreal motion blur, not something they had back then, but it's new technology mixed with old techniques. So there you can see it's you can even see the polygons on it. It doesn't look quite as good without the motion blur. But you can see it's probably moving too much to be able to tell that the texture is staying in place while the polygon moves through it. And this gradient here, I'm running this into the luminosity to make the brightest areas bright. And I have a gradient here to just kind of control the transparency a bit more. Oh, actually the transparency is there. I have a weight map on here so that the texture fades off. Now back in the day before they had weight maps, and here's what the weight map looks like. Back in the day before they had weight maps, they may have used the texture fall off, which is found here. You can position the beginning of the texture here and fall off using these controls. It's a little finicky sometimes though. So that is the texture on the fire, the engine fire. That's what I call it anyway. Let's switch that off. What next? We have some bullets firing. You won't see them here because that is a post-process effect, and that comes from Worley Labs Taft collection, and that would be, what's that called? Tracer. So if I go to, not the image editor, I want to go to, what is it? Item image processing. So here we have Tracer. It's a pixel filter, so it gets added when you render. So when I render, you see the render happens, and then the tracer gets added, and the lens flare gets added over top. So there's the tracer bullets going, and these are done with this lovely old school interface. And you can, I'm not going to go into the details. I had another video somewhere where I kind of showed this off a little bit. So I guess search for tracer. So there is a cool thing that allows you to export the light envelope. So that is how I have, if I have that, lights flashing at the ends of the barrels there, that would be what causes that. The real star of the show, well, before we get to the real star of the show, let's take a look at the background a bit. So, Windows, backdrop options, textured environment. We'll open this up. Here is our textured environment controls. Let's see, I have Gartner Clouds, which is comes from DP Kit, or no, it's from the maker of DP Kit, Dennis Pontanier, but it's the R-Man collection, R-Man Collect. You can see there's a layer, just several layers of things. The stars are actually a crust procedural texture. I find that renders pretty quick. There's a pitch that I did not use. I think that was turned off. If I turn turbulence on, you see nothing happened. That is set to alpha. Okay, so I did use pitch. So this is on. The turbulence above it is an alpha, and that kind of cuts out parts of the image. So that's why we only see streaks. I used the Gartner Clouds. And that is set to 0%, actually 1%. And that so it doesn't show up, but the texture is there. So on this upper layer here with the gradient, I can use the texture from the Gartner Cloud. So we have a couple layers of things going on there for our thing. And this looks a lot bluer than what I rendered in YouTube. So I think I probably did have that other layer turned off. So let's backdrop options. I was already there. Texture, and we'll turn that off. So yeah, there we go. It's a subtler effect. So we have this big explosion here happening. That is just a lens flare, I'm sure. Looks like I have a fireball light. Is that the one? No fireball light, not engine fire. Yeah, okay, so that's there. Again, I have that, and I have explode light 1, 2, and 3. They're all pretty much in the same area. I think if I look at this closely, there are probably 3 different ones going on there. So let's turn some lights on and off and see what that looks like. Again, this is just a scene walkthrough of something that I made several months ago. What am I looking for? Lights. Let's turn some lights on and off. Lens flares off. I'll bring up this little panel here too. Lens flare off. And lens flare off. I could have selected them all and done that. So, let's see, where's the fireball light? It may just have been a light to light scenes up. So, the explode lights are 3 lens flare lights that are there just to kind of give me a bigger, thicker lens flare. So it's not just like one line. It's actually several. We could now take a quick look at the lens flare options. It's really gaudy lens reflections and stuff. Not quite as cool as the stuff that you can make nowadays with like After Effects and optical flares and I guess the null light factory. But you know, you still have some interesting things to play with there. Let's see. So there's that. The star of the show is this explosion, which is pretty much just Polygon. So that was my Polygon explosion test. So I have a couple of polygons. It looks like they either morph or there is some other displacement on them. So let's take a look at one of those. Explosion. I don't want light. I want test layer. Let me go to Modeler and see what's up in Modeler. So here is our big fancy sphere. I have a background morph, which doesn't seem to do anything. And this is, what's this? This is this is those tendrils. So let me do a background morph. No, I don't want to make one. I want to look at it. So here it is, fully extended. Basically what I did is I made it like this, and then I copied it to the background, and then I collapsed it all down into one dimension. So it's maybe 2 dimensions. Anyway, it's just basically a line at this point. So base. So it's by expanding the morph, it actually makes it get thicker. So that's basically all that does. So really, this explosion test thing is only 2 objects and save, and a lot of displacement work. So these tendrils here are all about the same, or they're all the same object. They're just copied, and I'm animating the texture through them. So let's take a look at this again. I was trying to kind of experiment with, pay an homage to some of the old techniques of having to make explosions before there were things like hypervoxels. I did not do it very successfully in this, and that it looks very cartoony, and the texturing is a problem. But let's see. Let's take a look at the properties of that. So deform is where we're looking. Again, I used nodes. I used a crumple texture and a scalar and a smooth step in the function to kind of help shape it a bit. I'm just randomly changing things. Okay, so there we can see something happening. This is like basically doing a curves operation, but it happens at the texture level instead of post-texture level. Is this animated? Yep, this has an animation envelope on it, so I animated that in the graph editor, I guess. This is set to normal, and this is a standard type of thing for doing terrains and whatnot. It's basically saying it's moving the polygon based on its normal multiplied by the texture here. So it scales it up along the normal, and that runs into the input. So the fire tendril is probably going to be pretty similar. I do have the morph mixer on here, so I wonder why. This one is a little more complicated, I guess. And I don't feel like trying to explain it because I haven't looked at it in a long time, but yep, here's the vector that it's being displaced along, and this is probably matches the texture. So sorry, I'm not going to give you a much better demonstration of that, but you can see my node path there, and maybe reverse engineer it if you're really interested in that. Let me double check this. 1.5.1. I want to see if it's the same on a different one. Let me just make sure that I'm on a different one. 1.501. Yeah, so those two are the same. So I just basically animated it once, rotated around, probably offset the texture a bit so it's not all the same. So that might be about it. Can't think of anything else to show. Again, the lens flare was probably just I manually ramped up the light and lens flare options, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So it's nothing terribly exciting, other than, like I said, just an old experiment on stuff again. So thanks for watching. Let me see. I have some tutorials. It's been a long time since I made one, but I do still have a few tutorials for sale at liberty3d.com, and there's some other great learning material on there from some of the other artists there, and also some plugins like ubercam 2.1, so check that out. If you like this video, like it and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, I'm not as prolific as I used to be with putting videos out, but if there's a lot of interest on the channel, it will definitely encourage me to put more videos out on the channel. So thanks for watching. Sorry this was so long-winded, but it's a little spur of the moment, and that's about it. So have a great day, and keep having fun with graphics, I guess.